right, gentlemen, I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Pittsylvania County Fire and Rescue Commission, Thursday, January the 18th, 2024. Ms. Caldwell, would you do the roll call, please?
James Holly.
Here.
Ben Meeks.
Here.
Alan Casper.
Here.
Ward Rowland.
Here.
Tim Cassell.
Here.
Brian Shields. Kermit King.
Here.
Steve Stallings.
Here.
Coleman Mayhew.
Here.
Bert Sellers.
Here.
All right, let's observe a moment of silence, please. Okay, if everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, gentlemen, take a second to look over the agenda, and if any additions or any revisions to the agenda. All right, any additions or revisions to the agenda?
I'd like to add, I guess it'd be item number M, to just have a brief discussion on another ambulance wait time that we had in the hospital a couple weeks ago.
Okay. Add M, discussion of wait times at the hospital. Any other additions or revisions?
I'd like to add, I guess that would be N, to have discussion about the future fire and rescue study.
Chairman, may I interject on that? We could do that, or under new business, Board of Supervisors Communication, I could talk about it then. Maybe just as easy to cover it then, but it's your call.
Either way is fine with me.
As long as it's open for discussion.
Yeah, as long,
10 minutes,
Okay.
10 minutes on limit our discussion.
Would you give me 11?
Well, that's up to the chairman.
yeah, but that's fine with me.
So do you want to just let Mr. Ingram include that in his discussion?
I leave it up to the pleasure of the board, whatever's easiest for you guys, and give us enough time to talk about it, that'd be good.
Well, for Alan, it was your addition, so would you just like to retract it, or would you like to keep it added?
As long as we'll have sufficient time to discuss it, it does not matter to me, so we can retract mine and just let it be discussed under that.
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay.
Like I said, we got questions we're gonna ask you. And I'm sure you'll answer.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're deleting that one?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any more additions or revisions to the agenda?
Yeah, Chris, I'd like to add a discussion. It's gonna be, so I guess it would be in now, for a discussion on policies and procedures dealing with conflicts of interest between the volunteers and the Public Safety Department.
All right, so we've got an M with discussion of wait times at the hospital, and N, discussion on policy procedures of public safety. What was the rest of that, Ben?
It was the conflict of interest policy and procedure.
Okay, any other additions or revisions? Okay. We'll need a motion to accept these.
So moved.
In a second. Mr. Cassell? Okay. You go through the vote?
James Holly,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Roland, Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
Okay, now that both of them have been added, we need to approve of the agenda. So we'll need a motion on that.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, ready for a vote?
James Holly,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Roland,
Yes.
Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Good. All right, this time, we're opening the floor for the nomination and election of the chairman of the Fire and Rescue Commission. Do we have any nominations?
I'll nominate Ben Meeks for the chairman position.
Nomination in a second. Any other nominations? All right, this time we'll vote then. Ms. Lund?
James Holly,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
I'm going to abstain.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Roland,
Yes.
Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
Okay, we're good. All right, Mr. Meeks, this time I'll turn it over to you as chairman, sir.
Thank you, Director Key. I just want to say thank you, gentlemen, for putting me in again. I think we had a great year last year. We got a new board. It seems to going to be working well with us. Really excited about this year. I've talked to several of you in recent days, and hope we can continue to work together well and improving fire and rescue across the board for all of our citizens. So again, thank y'all for the nomination, and hope I do you proud. So we will open up the floor now. Item 8, Vice Chair nomination and election. So I will take any nominations for Vice Chair.
I'd like to nominate Kermit King.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Sellers nominates Kermit King for Vice Chair, second by Mr. Holly. Anyone else? All right, hearing none, call the roll, please.
James Holly,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Roland,
Yes.
Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Abstain.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you again, sir, for taking that. Appreciate you. That brings us down to item 9, gentlemen, minutes approval for November 2023. We didn't have a December meeting because the way it fell, it was just within a couple weeks of the one we had in November. We didn't really see any need. So if y'all would, take a few moments and review those minutes, and then I'll accept a motion for approval. additions to the November 2023 minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Casper. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Coleman, Mayhew, second. Call the roll, please.
James Holly,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland,
Yes.
Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
All right, thank y'all. Motion carries, brings us down to item 10, presentations. Director, do we have any presentations?
No presentations, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Brings us down to number 11, hearing of the citizens. We have anyone signed up?
No one signed up, sir.
All right, I don't have to read the script. Down to item 12, Fire and Rescue Association reports. Chief Neal.
Okay, thank you. I ended up over here, so I didn't get to sign up to do the 3 minutes for the citizens, so,
You got more time now.
yeah. Okay. It's good to be here tonight, and, I'd just like to congratulate everybody. Got elected tonight, Cameron and Ben. We got a good group of people. Starting, go all the way around the room. I think we got a very good group of people. You got people that are familiar with the communities. You got business people. You got fire department, EMS people. And that's what it's going to take to put all these nuts in a bag to make it work, okay? And you got to have people knowledgeable of what they're listening to and what requests are. I mean, you got to have an idea of what they're talking about and what they're asking for, right? So I think we got a good group around, and I'm glad to be a part of it when I can. Just a couple of things. We met last night, Fire Association. We had a pretty good crowd there, and we went over a lot of stuff. Chairman Meeks was there last night, and as the chief of Gretna too, and he went over a lot of stuff, and I know it's going to come up later, so I'm not going to double dip right there. One of the bigger things we did talk about, we put a committee together last night. The insurance is coming up, for the fire and rescue, and we've had different carriers the last few years. So, you basically, when you're doing this, you're talking about the truck insurance, which a lot of it is going up high because these trucks are newer and they're more high dollar, okay? I had my guys got back from Wisconsin 11:30 last night, and we got a new pumper rescue coming. It's been in building for 2 years. That's how long it's taking it. And that truck is going to run over $700,000. So we got to insure the thing, right? I mean, years ago, I remember, as long as I've been there, we'd buy fire trucks, $20,000, a factory fire truck, but it ain't like that no more. So you're looking at $700,000 to replace a 2003, so the insurance definitely is going to be higher for that than this one. And I think one of the biggest things we've got to look at in the insurance, you're insuring your vehicles, okay, fire or rescue. But let's look at the people. Basically all these people are volunteers. And I know some years and some policies we had, and what I understood last night is not in this one. So for example, if I leave my house on my private vehicle and say I'm going down to the Milton Road for a structure fire, and I'm not on a fire vehicle, and I wreck my pickup truck, whether it was my fault or not, deer runs out in front of me, I hit it, I flip, you have a loss of life. I mean, where do we fall at in that? And I don't think we covered real good on that, are we here, Ben?
No, it's, the way it works is they pay your deductible for
Right.
your insurance, but that's it.
Yeah, so I mean, they're gonna pay $1,000 and that's it,
Yeah, so it depends on
So it's,
how much insurance you have on the
Yeah.
vehicle and what the circumstances
yeah,
are.
and we got 650 volunteers in the county, so we gotta make sure everybody's insured. Hopefully nobody has accidents, but they do have accidents. That's part of the process. It's gonna happen, okay? It's gonna happen, so we just wanna make sure we covered good. So we did put a committee together on that. The other thing I'd like to say is, really it's a thank you. I really think in the last 2 or 3 years, fire and rescue in this county has really come together a lot. There's been a lot going on up here. I think a lot of people would pull together. I mentioned last night, and all y'all know, and ain't many of you older than I am. I've been down here 55 years like I have. But at the end of the day, you take these departments started years ago. You had the little mom and pop grocery stores. You had the tobacco farmers. You had people who had their own little business in the neighborhood. And that's when these were the people leaving the jobs. You know, I seen my daddy lock a door on Neil's Grocery and go get a fire truck, shut the store down. You know, as people pull out the biker field. Nowadays, most of your firemen, they all over the place working, your EMS people, a lot of them working 2 jobs. And I got 21 on my roll that work for either Danville Life Saving Crew, Danville Fire Department, Lynchburg Fire Department, South Boston Fire Department, okay? So they getting a big dose of this, you know, in their regular life, and then you expect them, okay, come down here and volunteer with us, and a lot of them do. But, you know, doing the same thing 7 days a week, you know, you sort of get wore out and burnt out. You know, if you eat a hot dog 7 days a week, sooner or later, you don't want no hot dog for dinner or supper. But, you know, I'm just throwing that out there. But again, the brotherhood, I would like to thank. Unfortunately, my department, in the last year, we've had 3 deaths. And technically, December the 27th of year, you know, the year ending before this year, my 37-year-old daughter passed away, Stephanie. And Stephanie was a school nurse. Stephanie was an EMT at Ringo for about 16 years. And she done everything she could do. She had health issues, but she done. Tremendous funeral. I had Gretna, Log Road, different people came to our building and put trucks in it. Unfortunately, this July, I lost another fireman, Chris C. Boy, been with me 26 years. He's down at South Boston a lot, Vic. You've seen him down there, driving cars and stuff. But at the end of the day, he passed away. He was a 26-year man. He'd run 100 calls in 6 months, so we lost him. And then, unfortunately, and actually his picture's in the Star Tribune today, if any of y'all get any, but Billy DeMont. Billy was a 54-year member of our department. He was a 30-year member of our board of directors. He was a fire and EMT. He retired from Goodyear about 12 years ago. This guy was running 3, 4, 5, and 600 calls a year. Y'all hear him on the radio, Tim and Ben, some of y'all 23, 21, you used to hear that number all the time. So this is what's happening. You know, you lose these people like that. How do you lose a man run 600 calls? How do you replace him? You know, that's stuff we run into and trying to just get enough people to do it. But again, Gretna and Log Road sent trucks down to our station. We buried him December 30th, which was close to 3 weeks ago. And actually had 2 calls while I was at the funeral that they run. But I just wanted to say, you know, it's a lot of different people sent stuff and at the station helping us and coming to the funeral, and it means a lot. And it's not just Pittsylvania County. I think most of the departments around the area, you try to be a brotherhood and work together, and that's the only way you're going to survive. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Chief Neal. County staff reports, Director Key.
Yes, sir. Just a reminder, the SCBA fit testing machine has been calibrated and returned. That is a service we offer to all the fire departments. Come out and fit test all your firefighters each year. The SCBA air packs testing was completed in December. The 4 for Life money has been held up by the state. There's a investigation going on with the state through the Department of EMS. So hopefully we're set to release that money to us here soon. A couple grants that are coming up, the Virginia Department of Forestry grants coming up, the JT Mini Mall Charitable Trust, and the Community Foundation of the Dan River region are all grants, opportunities out there for local volunteer fire and EMS departments. Under training, we've had the Firefighter 1 classes are almost finishing up. They should be finished up within the next couple weeks. Hopefully that'll give us an additional 40 firefighters that are eligible for interior firefighting, something we much need. Also a reminder, we've got a basic pump ops class coming in March and a rural water supply class coming in April. The new portable radios, we got a new quote on that. I've sent that to procurement, so hopefully they'll be in within the next little bit. And then my last thing is the reminder of the statewide burning regulations that go into effect February 15th through April the 30th. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, sir. Chris, do you remember what the quote was for the portables?
It was 130, well, no, excuse me. We had set aside $130,000. The initial quote come in at over $1,900. By us waiting and getting a newer quote, we're down to $1,685, I think was the quote. So we'll proceed with that. And we do have it in there for, in the next CIP budget for this upcoming year for an additional 100.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the director on the update? All right, here none, we will move on. Any unfinished business that you guys have? I guess it would be from November, from last year. Any unfinished business? All right, here none, that takes us to item 15. Item 15 is new business. First one up is going to be Board of Supervisors Communications. So, Mr. Vic Ingram, want to congratulate you on your reelection and your appointment to this body, and take the floor away.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations to you and Peanut, Kermit King, rather, Vice Chairman. You guys do a great job, and thank you for that. So you do want me to dive in on this study, correct?
Yeah, I think if it would help a little bit if you could dive
Okay.
in and give us some insight.
You know the old saying, it starts and ends with me, and I'm more than prepared to fall on the sword. You know, when I was running for office back in 2019, my first stop was at Cascade Fire and Rescue for a country breakfast. And it was at that time that I got hit rather strongly with the difference between public safety and volunteers. And to be honest with you, I really didn't have a clear understanding of what that meant. And even today, I'm not so sure I understand. But as it would be, I simply told those guys, I said, well, if elected, let me take a look at it and see the difference and see the benefits. And that's sort of where I'm at today. There is a difference and there is a benefit. And so through the years, and it hasn't been that many, this is number 5, you know, I have tried to independently listen and look at both sides. And you guys well know that this is the largest county in Virginia, and there's places that are not served. And so in that respect, we do need public safety to fill in the gap. And I think that that collectively, we all can do a better job. And so I keep hearing from an ex-supervisor this 2015 Fire and Rescue study. And having looked at it, there's parts that was embraced and there's parts that wasn't. And if it was a talking point like accountability and audits, that seemed to be the topic of that study. But having said that, still to this day, I get comments from Fire and Rescue, and I get comments from Public Safety. So looking into the future, and trust me, I've given this a lot of thought, what can we do to help close the gap and help make good, honest, fair decisions on not only funding, but additional decisions that we as a board of supervisors have to make. So I was talking to an expert in this field, and they recommended that I reach out to this company, ESCI. And I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but you know, I started looking into this, and I independently now, and that's why I'm saying I'm going to fall on the sword. I reached out to them and I said, send me something that we can take a look at. And that's where this came from. Now, realizing that no study is free, just like a fire truck, Mike, they're not free, are they?
No.
All right. So I looked to a resource to get funding for this study. And we were given through that process total funding. And so it's not going to cost the county or any entity any money except the grant folks. And so with that, you know, what I'm looking for when I get this back is an independent set of eyes to look at what we have and what we can do to make things better. That was my heart. So if we need to shift funding over here, so be it. Like with the old study, it promoted moving stations. And that was a conversation that we had some time back. I don't know if you remember that. I think it was on page 3 maybe. But if you told Mike Neal that your station is too close to the city of Danville and we're going to move you, now how well would that go over? Or if you told Cascade you're too close to the North Carolina line. So, you know, some of that, I understand why it was in the study, but it was ridiculous. It would not work for us. And so, you know, while we're going to the board, we've approved this study, and once we get it, everybody will have a chance to take a look at it and to talk about it and see how we can best serve not only each other, but the citizens, primarily the citizens. But, you know, we all in this thing together, we have to work together. So I do want to apologize to all of you that I didn't say anything ahead of time, but I knew if I did, what would happen. But when the cat got out of the bag as of Tuesday night, you know, you had a pretty vigorous meeting, I understand, but it's my fault, and I accept blame for that. But I just hope that once the study is completed and we can take a look at it, that we all, as one body, being citizens, and combined in part with our two boards, that we can take what is recommended and use it for the best or the betterment of our county. And so I'm more than prepared to answer questions, but there was one caveat to this, and I even hate to say it, but we can accept it or we can reject it. We can accept part of this study and we can reject part of the study. But I just felt like I get hit from different sides, if you can believe that. So I just felt like if I had an independent study done by some very qualified fire and rescue people, that it would give us something to look at. I didn't confer with Director Key, and I didn't confer with other board members. I just went off and I looked into this and I said, well, if this is something I'm going to bring before the board, I've got to tell them how we're going to pay for it. That's why I sought out the funding that I did, and then we talked about it, and so here we are. But I hope that, you know, once this is done, that we can look at it and say, you know, this is a good thing, because the old study was done 9 years ago, and a lot of that is out of date and antiquated. So going back to my comment, I didn't want anybody to blame Chris for this. It was my doings. And so I'll entertain any questions you might have.
What kind of, what's the criteria of this study, actually? I mean, did they give you kind of a list of information that they want to look at?
It is a ton of stuff. Have you, I gave the chairman a copy, but I'll tell you what, easiest thing is let me email it to you, Ben, you email it to everybody, and then maybe next month we can talk about it in depth.
If you would, send it to the director, because he has all of us. He can just send it to us at one time.
Okay, yes,
It'd be
sir.
easier,
That-
if that's
that'll
all
be
right for you,
fine.
Chris.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'll be fine. But it's, the best I can tell you, it's pretty comprehensive, and let me see here.
We pick and choose what we're going to accept and not going to accept. Who will be involved in making that decision?
Well, it's something we'll have to talk about, absolutely. Because it, you know, this will come back to the Board of Supervisors, and I guess we'll talk about it and then get you guys involved. And so it will be a joint effort, I can promise you that. It won't be just the board.
It'll be coming from the board down instead of
Ye-
here
yes,
going
sir.
back to the board?
Pretty much, yes, sir. And I'm sure that I'll be the go-between between our board and this commission. And then, of course, not to leave out the association. So that was a question that I had, is how do we get all the bodies involved? And so, you know, there's a couple of ways we could, in theory, do that. But I guess once the study's back, we can see what's best for everybody.
Well, I know the association made a motion last night. Mike, you help me if I'm wrong, or if I speak wrong, that they would like fair representation during this study, and to be, you know, I guess briefed when the rough draft. I've read over the proposal pretty good. It's a lot of information in there and a lot they're going to be asking, but they would like, you know, at least to be notified at the same time that the board and the Public Safety Department and like the commission as well is notified, to be able to look over it and answer questions. And they also would like to know what's the timeline and processes, you know, because if you look at the proposal, it says within month one, they're going to start doing site visits. Well, that's pretty quick considering you guys approved it Tuesday. So you know, y'all approved it. Now where are we at in the process? Have y'all contacted this company and said, we're good to start? And they were kind of left out in the dark. They're like, you know, and this is nothing against the Public Safety Department, but they have folks that are administrators that work there 9 to 5, Monday through Friday or whatever. most of us volunteers, we work a full-time job, so I need time to make sure I get all my data together when they come saying, hey, I need you to meet me time and date. I need to look at all your trucks, I need to look at all your information, I need to look at all your criteria, because we need to make sure we paint that full picture of what everybody's really doing, so.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ben. The thing that I really want to highlight is that we have a brand-new board that has you guys at their heart. And some of them, we'll get a crash course on this overall process, and I'm sure I'll learn a lot as well. But this is a new day, and I felt like with a new study, totally independent, like I said, I didn't ask Chris, who should we talk to, and I didn't ask y'all. I just went and I solicited a very qualified corporation or company, and that's sort of where we at. And as you said, it's a lot of good stuff in there. So as far as the timeline, once we get to the point that we can sit down and have had time to read the study and then come together and talk about it and then make decisions, I think we'll be served well.
Will this also address the financial needs for the area and implementation?
It sure will, yes, sir.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the key things. Again, it's so many topics in here they're going to review, but I know some of the big points that highlights in their proposal, which you guys will see once you get it. Did I pass it? Might have passed it. So planning services, risk assessment and resource deployment, public safety agency management and assessment, recruiting, testing, and promotions. That's some of the key things, but it says, past or current fire and rescue studies, they'll review comprehensive plan documents, including current and future land use information, local census and demographic data, zoning maps and zoning data, or zoning codes, I apologize, financial data, including debt information, long-range financial plans and projections, your administrative policies and procedures, your standard operating guidelines, your service delivery practices, current service delivery objectives and targets. Of course, they'll be reviewing our National Fire Incident Reporting System, or better known as NIFRS, where you report your fire calls to the state, your ESO system for your EMS calls. They'll be looking at computer-aided dispatch, how that's done, local geographic information, the GIS data, where it's available. Says they'll also be talking to the stakeholders, the elected and appointed officials, community officers, financial director of the county, community planning staff, human resources director, external fire and EMS agencies within the region, employees of Pittsylvania County Public Safety and the volunteer departments, and then others that may contribute. And then it's going to look at the service overview, area population, the history, formation, and general description of the system, description of the current service delivery infrastructure, their operating budgets, funding, fees, taxation, financial resources, governance, and lines of authority, foundational policy documents, organizational design, staffing, what is the staffing levels, evaluate those. It's a bunch, CIP plan from the county funding to support public safety or volunteer organizations, service delivery and performance, and again, it's other bullets that fall under these. Your development review and delivery of high-level agency reports. Yeah, so like I said, I could just keep reading. So the only concern we had last night when we reviewed this, Vic gave me a copy after they passed this Tuesday night, was if you look at project phase, it says onboarding data and document collection, which says -1 month, which I guess is obvious what they've put in the proposal. And then once you guys contact them and contract them to come do this, that'll be their planning phase. But then month 1, phase 1 says project preparation and site visits. Falling right under that phase 2, which still stays within month 1 and goes to month 2, it's fire department agency evaluation elements, and that'd be fire or rescue agencies. And then under month 2 and going to month 3 is phase 3, development review and deliver the draft report. And phase 4 is the final phase, which goes from month 3 and month 4 development review and a presentation of final report. So they just wanted to know kind of in the association what time frames we were going to be looking at so that we could make sure, we have everything we need, to be able to have our stations open and be able to come and take a look at what we have and what information. I mean, they're asking for a lot, so.
Yeah.
I know just from when this came about Tuesday night, almost immediately, my telephone started blowing up. And I think as we go through this process, the most important thing is communication. We need to keep our people informed because when you don't have communication, you have confusion, you have a rumor mill, and things grow out of that. I tried to explain to, as you said, I tried to explain to people when they call me that, we are dealing with different board members now. But I think they go back on past experience. The 2015 study for the past 9 years has been used to harass and intimidate your volunteer departments. It has not been used as a helpful tool. It has been used as a weapon. And that's what people are afraid of. So I think communication is first and foremost important.
Good point, and that is one of the thoughts that I had, is that if we could move past that 2015 study and all of the negative and ugly stuff that you guys have had to endure since then and start fresh. And remember, we have some very new board members that need an oversight such as this, and they need to be able to look at it as objectively as they possibly can. And so, that was, again, part of my thought process in soliciting this information. And like I said, when I took it to the board, I didn't know if they would approve or reject it. I talked to a couple of members, but to be honest with you, I didn't know for sure that they would vote. And then there was a question about the procurement and the grant money and all that stuff. And we got all that worked out. So it is now in the hands of our procurement office and the county administrator. And, once everything is put in place, then we'll go from there. But, these are fire and rescue professionals and, just like you guys. And so they understand all the particulars and the fact that you, as volunteers, have other responsibilities. So I just look forward to seeing what they recommend. And, collectively, if it's something that we can't live with, we won't do it. It's just that simple. But, again, I know that you're somewhat of a wordsmith. I hope that your people are at ease about this, because I didn't solicit this and didn't look for the funding for anything other than to help us to navigate through these muddy waters that somewhat still linger. I mean, like right now, there's a certain person still bashing us on social media, and sadly, there's some people that listen to that. So, whatever we can do to have a clean start and to move past that is what I'm looking for.
So, Vic, the only thing I would say, and reiterating what Ben said, is we definitely need to be involved with this study. I mean, we're not going around doing this study. I'm not going to Blythe and look at Dean's stuff or whatever, but let us be involved with the people. And I know Chris Slimp did it last time. I don't know, you may get the job of doing it, taking them around everywhere, but when they come to my station, I would like to be prepared, have a few more people down there, some of the stuff laid out, and they need to ask us what's going on. The old saying, you get it from your horse's mouth, okay? And I mean, all of us involved, everybody's, just like your household, everybody's household is different. Everybody's firehouse is a little different. So why do you got this? Why you got these type trucks? Why do you got this? The people down there that know the answer needs to be down there.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, to me, that's a given. And so once we get to that stage, it'll be a matter of working together and working through this and accommodating each other to get the information needed. So
I know that the portion that Ben read, it goes through about 4 months. Is that a realistic time frame, or is it going to be a little longer than that, or?
well, realizing we're in the budget season right now, and the numbers that was sent to me for the FY 2025 budget is just over 7.2 million. So I'd love to see them do what they can before we get to the finalization part of the budget, but I don't know that that will happen, but, you know, we'll just have to play it by ear. I'm sure that if there's specific needs, just like accommodating you guys' schedule, that they would work with us on that, so, but I'm excited about it, so I look forward to seeing what the end result product is.
Well, yeah, the reason why I asked that, you know, like most things, most studies, the longer it takes to get them back, the more credibility they lose in the process. You know, if that was said correctly.
I think I understood it, but, you know, I'm just very, I don't want to use the word optimistic, but I'm optimistic about, you know, the end result, what they're going to tell us. And like I said, this is from a totally independent perspective. You know, I wouldn't team up with them and tell them this is what I want you to look at specifically and report on, no more than I'd want you to do that. So, you know, it's always good to have that outside set of eyes to look at what collectively we need to do to better serve the citizens. And we all have, you know, our own, like I've been accused of having my special interest group. Well, I do. That's y'all. I publicly confess to that. But you know, I just think that this will be a really good thing for our new board to help navigate through some of the difficulties of the past and put that in the past and move forward.
Any other questions for Mr. Engel? All right, thank you, sir. Any
you,
other
sir.
communications from the board?
There was a question, if I may ask, and this comes to 15L. I understand in the bylaws, it calls for a meeting every other month.
Yeah, so I think your bylaws, when it was originally set up, so I was on the very first commission initially, and then, you know, that went a year or so, and then that commission was done away with, and they started a new one, and this one's been going for 2 years. But initially, when it was set up to go every month, and they said we would do this for first couple years, and then it was said hopes that we would be far enough along being able to stay on top of things once we got organized, got everything running, that we would go to a every other month schedule. I know the majority of the commission members on all those commissions past, we never followed the every other month. We tried to stick to a monthly meeting because, you know, we feel like too much information gets lost or gets, you know, falls through the cracks if we're not meeting once a month. I mean, you're talking about just tonight, we've got, you know, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 new business items. So, and it ain't like that every month, but if you wait it 2 or 3 months, and I mean, this is the product of, we went from November to now, you know, sometimes that's why we always, but whatever this commission wants to do, that's going to be a discussion on the bylaws here in just a little while. But that's why, just to answer your question, yes, it was originally set up that long-term we would go every other month, but from the initial phase, and they said a couple years or until we get rolling, whatever that means, it was going to be every month, so.
But, Mr. Chairman, didn't we change the bylaws to go every meeting? We didn't, because I remember when one of the meetings we was talking about it, because you were saying that we had to appropriate more money
Yeah.
to meet every month.
We did that in the budget, yes.
Okay, so we didn't change the bylaws on that, but we,
It still says that you meet at a minimum on the second Thursday of each odd-numbered month.
okay, but I know it was a discussion 2 years ago.
Mr. Chairman, that's to my point, is that needs to be changed.
Yeah.
And you could simply say it, that you shall meet every month or as needed.
Yeah. And that's kind of how we did it last year. There was a couple months we missed. We just didn't have a lot to, you know, we don't want to take up y'all's time if it's not something we absolutely need to be here for. So we tried to look at it, myself and Chris and any of the commissioners, we'd reach out, and if they didn't have anything and there was no new pressing business, you know, and that's also, you know, that as far as moving the meeting to this week, which, again, we're gonna talk about all that, but that's why I kind of trying to make it a more, you know, obtainable for us to be here and do our due diligence and also support the commission, the Fire and Rescue Association and the board, so. Yeah, we'll touch on that and we'll get there. Anything else, sir?
Don't have a thing.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on down to new business item B, Fire and Rescue Memorial. Take it back to you, Mr. Ingram.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you. That still is a work in progress. Ironically, I didn't ask for it, but I was appointed chairman of the Property and Grounds Committee. So on that committee is Tim Dudley and Eddie Height. So what I need to do now is schedule a meeting with them to talk about location and some of the other particulars that we talked about last month. Hopefully, at our next meeting, next month, that we can give you a definitive answer on location as well as the other issues that we talked about, so.
Thank you, sir.
But, you know, again, funding will be critical, and I'll give you some renditions of, you know, what it could look like, and we'll work together on that. But, you know, the location, the property aspect will have to be determined by the Board of Supervisors. I went through that when I was chairman of the Law Enforcement Memorial, and that was, you know.
Yeah, we continued to run up against that when we had our past committee, so I'm hoping now with you leading the committee for this project that we can get a little bit further, maybe, and with a new board.
I think you're right, sir. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Moving to item C, Budget Committee update. That'll be me. So I wanted to review with you guys tonight. The Budget Committee met, 2 or 3 times at least. We exchanged emails and phone calls, and then we met in person twice for several hours down at Chris's office. That was Chris Key, Deputy Director Scott Hutcherson, Mike Neal with the association, Dean Fowler, the President of the Association, myself representing the commission, and Steve Stallings representing the commission. So it was a collective effort of what, you know, everybody's needs and wants was. You know, obviously, we understand the board can't give us everything, but we have to at least pitch our sale to them of what we need and why, and then let them decide. But I'm going to review it tonight with you guys, and if y'all have any questions, myself or Chris or Mike will try to answer it. Those are the ones that are here, and Steve as well, that was on the committee. So in the CIP funding, and just before I get started, all of this has already been forwarded over to the Finance Director, Kim Vanderhyde. So it's currently with the county administration, and obviously, you know, they are working on getting all of it prepared and sent up to the Board of Supervisors to start their long process of seeing what we can and cannot get. But the CIP funds, we're asking for 100 portable radios. That's going to be $180,000, so we asked for a $40,000 increase. Fire apparatus replacements, 2 engines, tanker, that doesn't change as far as how many, but we're current $200,000 each. We're asking to raise that to $250,000 per truck, so that would be a $500,000 total, so it's a $100,000 increase in the budget. The ambulance replacement, which currently is 2 per year, that's $125,000. We're asking to take that to $175,000, so that's $350,000 total, and that's a $100,000 increase. Real quick on those 2 items, the reason we're asking for those increases, just so for the ones watching at home and the ones here, which, you know, majority of you are fire and rescue out there, you know this, fire trucks now, you know, Mike just said it 2 years ago, was $750,000. That same truck, if he buys it again today, is gonna cost him $1 million. That's the reality of it. That's where we're at. We just spec'd one at Gretna and ordered it, and it's $958,000. It's just the way it is now. Ambulances have went up. Tunstall's getting ready to order one. They're at $508,000 for an ambulance and a stretcher. You know, the days of getting $100,000 trucks is long, long gone. So that's why we're asking for those increases, because even with these increases, we're still not even putting a dent in what the volunteer agencies are gonna have to fundraise and come up with on our own. Insurance, you see a $35,000 raise there. That wasn't our request, that was what the insurance said their increase was. So if we want to keep insurance, We're in a contract with them for one more year. That's what they said, the total price was gonna be $350,000 to insure us. We have to have insurance, so that's why you see that there. The base funding, you know, obviously with inflation, we tried to sit down and study, you know, where we was, where we've been in the past, where, you know, where we're at, where we're going in the future. And one thing was, you know, we didn't get an increase at all last year. So you see a 20% increase there, and that's shocking to some when you say, wow, 20%, you know, how's that possible? But when you got 0 last year, you know, that's 10%. Let's just say 10% for last year and 10% for this year. That we're asking for a raise from $26,500 to $31,800. So that would be for each department, and it would be per service. So if you have a conjoined agency that runs fire and rescue, then they would get, you know, currently they would get $26,500 2 times, whatever that total is. If we get the increase, it'd be $31,800. So that's an additional $169,600 in the budget request. EMS response to supplement, currently we're at $25 a call. We've asked that to go to $50 a call. One thing we looked at with that is our transports, going to Lynchburg, having to go to Carolina hospitals, you know, Franklin County, Danville, depending on where you're at in this county, we're having to transport a long ways. The hospitals are staying on diversion. We're gonna have a conversation here in a little while on that. So with those longer transport times and everything else, you know, the costs are going up there, so we're asking for an increase on the pay per call for the EMS responses. So again, that would go to $50 a call if approved, which is a $205,000 additional increase in the budget. Fire response supplement, this is something new, so we try to look at, like your standalone volunteer fire departments, they have a little bit tougher time. You know, we can soft bill for EMS, and if the individual have insurance, then we collect what the insurance will pay, and if they don't, then it's wrote off. But we can try to, you know, recoup some of our expenses. The fire department is a dead expense. You know, when they run a fire call, you know, other than they might get a donation from the community, but as far as being able to you know, recoup anything, there's just nothing there. So what we're asking for is if the agency answers the call, covers the call, and responds, then they would get $15 per call. So that would be an additional $60,000 in the budget, and that would try to help out some of the fire departments. EMS service contracts. This was probably one of the longest conversations we had. Chris is shaking his head over there. He knows. Guys, there is a lot of things that you have to have preventative maintenance done on. We have to keep up with to service our community. That being said, just about every bit of it, these volunteer agencies are having to eat. They're having to pay for it 100%. And I'm talking about your life packs, your Lucases, your stretchers. You go out tonight, you haven't had your stretcher, your PMs done on your stretcher. That stretcher breaks and drops somebody off of it. That individual is going to turn around and sue that department and this county's insurance. And the county insurance, the first thing they're going to come look at, and the county attorney is, well, have you guys been doing your preventative maintenance? Well, we couldn't afford it. You know, that's where we're at on some of these things. Most of us are, you know, we're doing it, but it's really costing us a lot. And I'm not going to dive into the numbers tonight. We can if y'all want to, but it's astronomical on what these contracts. And the good thing is if we can start getting this support from the board, we can start shopping as a whole. You know, one thing I think we can do better in this county is if we go and say we need to purchase, you know, 21 versus 1, that individual selling it's usually going to give you a better deal because you're buying in bulk, you know, or whatever the total amount needs to be. So we'll run through those real quick. EKG monitors, 28 of those in the county. That's $2,200 a piece to service those. That's $61,600. Stretchers, 28 of those in the county. That's $1,600, $44,800 total. Power load systems, this is for the, if the striker power loads. So, you know, you still have manual stretchers in some of your ambulances, but most of them now, if you buy a new one, you know, that's what you're gonna get. Those systems, 28 of those systems, $2,100 a piece, that's a total of $58,800. Lucas CPR devices, 28 of those at $1,700 apiece, $47,600 total. You know, real quick on the stretchers, we had a piece break on one of our stretchers, and thankfully Stryker helped us out, but the gentleman on the cost, but the gentleman that was fixing it said if we charge this 100%, and because we've had contracts in the past, they cut, you know, they helped us out and cut us a better deal, but he said if I'd had to charge you 100% and you didn't have a contract, this fix would have cost you $8,500. $8,500 to fix one part on a stretcher. Fire service contracts, again, we have to service our fire pumps. We have to start servicing our hose, ladder testing, your SCBA compressor machines. All of that's supposed to be done. That's NFPA compliance. It's safety for our firefighters. It's safety for the community because the equipment you're responding with is going to work. And it's also required by our insurance. But again, you can't tell somebody if they don't have the funding, they got to do it. So that's why we're asking for these increases, or this would be in a new item in the budget, fire service contracts. So yearly aerial apparatus testing and inspection for 4 ladder trucks, that's how many is currently in the county. That's $1,500 each. 4 of those would be $6,000. SCBA compressor testing and maintenance, there's 17 of those in the county, so that'd be $17,000 total. Pump testing and maintenance, 62 engines and tankers in this county at $500 a piece, that's $31,000. Hose testing and maintenance, $5,000 times 21 departments, that's $105,000. Ground ladder testing and maintenance, 200 ladders in this county at $100 a piece is $20,000. And that's a total additional request in the budget of $179,000. Again, you know, you do hose testing, you lose 20 or 30 sections of hose, that department then's got to turn around after they've paid for the testing and the preventative maintenance, they got to turn around and order all new hose, because if it fails, it's out of service. Has to go off your truck, be cut up, tagged out, give away, whatever you want to make it, give it to a farm or whatever, but it can't be used in the fire service. And so then we got to turn around and spend thousands of dollars to order new hose. So it's a cascade there, but it's stuff we got to be doing. And then training, you know, it's important. If we're not investing money in training, that's part of your recruitment and retention, that's part of your safety, then we might as well just give up what we're doing here and move on. So training, we've asked to raise that to $65,000. That's a $5,000 increase. And then our special operations team, we're trying to get that back up off the ground, but we need special ops guys. We had a water rescue the other night. These things are low frequency, high risk calls. They don't happen often, but when they do, you need people responding that's appropriately trained, because these calls can and will kill individuals if you don't know what you're doing. That's just the way it is. So special operations team, we've asked for $15,000 in CIP funding and $10,000 for those guys to be trained. So that is the budget request from the Fire and Rescue Association Commission and in conjunction with the Public Safety Department. So I'll entertain questions, comments, or concerns on the budget.
I hate to ask a dumb question, but is all of these tests that have to be made, does that include your apparatus too, Chris? Or is
Yes,
that just
it'll include my 5
volunteer?
ambulances.
Pardon?
It'll include my 5 ambulances.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How about the other stuff?
I don't have any fire apparatus. I don't have fire hose or anything.
Okay. So that is included, this money right here supports his organization also?
Yeah.
That is correct.
Okay.
So that would be so what Mr. Sellers is speaking on, the $212,800 increase in the budget, which is for the EMS service contracts. That does include the Public Safety Department and the volunteer stations as a whole.
Ben, I'll give you a reference. I talked to Robbie Woodall the other day. They've got the maintenance contract with Stryker and everything on their Lucas and their stretchers. They're spending $97,000 a year just on contract.
Well, and I mean, and it's what a lot of people don't realize. You have to maintain these things, as going back to what you said, Ben, like with stretchers. You know, this is a conversation Ben and I have had many times. You know, my agency, we're running for 3 stretchers. What we're using 3 stretchers that we got from Gretna Rescue Squad before we merged the agencies, and they were purchased refurbished way back then. Well, a new stretcher costs you more than a new car today. And so, you know, you're talking to replace 3 stretchers, you're talking over $100,000. So, I mean, it's a lot of people, just like where we talked about the cost of fire trucks, cost of ambulances, well, there's the cost of the stuff inside of them is going up dramatically too. So that's where a lot of these budget increase requests come from.
Yeah, I think, you know, like I said, that was our longest conversation was on these contracts, but I mean, if you look, there's roughly $390,000 in contracts we've asked for this year, because we've never funded those to the agencies in the past. And so y'all do the math, you know, $390,000 is what the 21 agencies are having to come up with on their own, and with the exception of his 5 ambulances. The rest of it, they come up with their own, because you have to do these things. If we don't do them, then we put ourselves in liability and we put the community in jeopardy. So
Does the insurance company require this, all of this?
most of it, Chris, I'll let you touch on that one.
Yes. Yeah, they want to see the records every year where we've tested them.
Also, I'll add, one thing we forget about is our ISO rating. So your ISO ratings that are given to a fire department, which directly affects the insurance, homeowners insurance of the people in your community. They look at your rating of your fire department, its capabilities, and part of that is they want to see your records. Have you been hose testing? Have you been ladder testing? Have you been pump testing? Have you been compressor testing? Because those things show that you're staying on top of it, which means you'll have a better response to save that property, so they give those individuals cheaper homeowners insurance. If you get a lower, or should be higher, the way ISO works, but a bad score, and it goes up, then people in your communities, the insurance rates go up on their property. So I'm not just talking about something here that, you know, don't think I'm trying to sell a pitch here to anybody. You know, we'll sit down with anybody that wants to look at these numbers and see why we're at, you know, and I know the board can't, you know, grow money on trees, but these things really need to be looked at hard. Any other questions or comments on the budget? Again, this is a proposal. I don't know where we're going to fall. I don't even know how long it's going to take. But I'm sure Vic will hopefully bring us some information back in a few months. Probably, I'd say a couple months.
Yes, sir.
So,
Hey, I got one quick question for Mr. Ingram. So when your finance committee, what is it, 3 of you? How many is on it? 4 people from the finance committee.
Mr. Tucker's the chairman of that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
When you sit down, and I'm just saying maybe in the first inning of the game where everybody can get on the same page, so I don't think in the past, but I mean, is a chance that you would have a chief or 2 chiefs or president of the commission, president of the fire association. I mean, I think it would be good to have the people that actually do it. Because, you know, like I said, you got new board members, but you got older board members, in my opinion, didn't have a clue either, okay? But I'm just saying, seriously, you know, they got to understand, just like what he's saying, the stretchers and the hose and the pumps and the aerials and all that stuff down the road. First off, safety is the main thing. We want to be safe, and we want public to be safe when we're using this stuff. They riding in on our stuff, but still, I think it would be good. I mean, you in a field right here that a lot of people in the county don't understand. They see the fire truck and ambulance leave, and they donate, and they come by the stew, and every time you see them, they thanking you. But a lot of people don't have a clue what goes into running a fire department, okay? And I'm just saying, even the board of supervisors, I mean, I know you was at Tunstall for a while, but at the end of the day, I think it'd be good if it's just one meeting to let a couple of them put the input in with y'all. And I think Mr. Tucker's got a real good idea. Now, I was very impressed that he came to our last meeting and talked the way he did, the fire at North Point, and the presentation was showed at the Board of Supervisors meeting. See, he saw it firsthand. He saw it with his 2 eyes, and he recognized it. But how many more people have seen that? So that's why I'm saying that.
Yeah, Mike, I was thinking you guys had a seat at the table last time around, but I would surely defer this to Mr. Tucker. But Everything you said was well taken, and he was very much touched, not only by that presentation, but by what you guys do. And I'm sure that, I don't want to talk out of turn, but he would surely talk with you and entertain any viable possibility of working together on that. I'm sure they'll listen to you. It's going to be a tough season, though, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I've requested, just so the commission knows, several times in the past, that we have a work session or joint meeting with the board, and to no avail, I haven't been lucky yet to get that. So
Well-
I feel like it's important that we get an opportunity to sit down with the board members, just as important as the community's hearing it tonight and the members in the audience, that, these are facts that we're trying to present. And again, understand, that doesn't change the fact that you can't make dollars grow on trees, but we need to make sure our case is fairly heard. And so, like Mike said, any conversation that the finance committee would like to have, we are all ready to have it. So,
Yes, sir, I would surely defer that to Mr. Tucker, and just encourage you guys to reach out to him and talk to him.
absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion on the budget? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on. Next one up is going to be item D, recruitment and retention. Vice Chair King.
Oh, yes, we met just a little bit before Christmas. Myself, Director Key, Deputy Director Hutcherson, and Ms. Casey C. We met in his office, and we talked about some ideas and talked about some research that we had to do. Director Key is trying to reach out to other counties to see what's going on, and I've been doing some research trying to, so when we have our next meeting, we'll have some more stuff to put on the table. But I don't know whether any of y'all read Mount Hermon's recruitment page on Facebook or not. I thought it was real good. They got a recruitment on their a recruitment paragraph on their Facebook page. Was real nice. So they kind of ahead of the game right now. So if you get a chance, take a look at what they have to say.
One thing, Vice Chair, if you're entertaining any ideas, I'd like to hear this commission give the Vice Chair some ideas to take back and discuss with your committee. But a few things that I would like to see, any kind of incentives that we can add. You're already asking individuals to come out in a very tough day and age with the way inflation is. Most individuals are working long hours, if not multiple jobs, especially if you're taking care of families and whatnot. So it's hard to financially support. They got to pay for gas in their vehicles and insurance on the vehicles and things. So if there's any incentives that can be given in the way of tax breaks on their personal property maybe or whatever, I think that's something that really needs to be explored. And in other localities, it's worked. In municipalities, they've seen an increase when they give some sort of tax break to individuals that are a first responder and, are active with the agency. Obviously, there need to be parameters put in place that make sure somebody's doing what they're supposed to, but that's something that really needs to be looked at. Another thing is we've got to start taking care of our folks that go and get this training. The association did a really good job last night talking about this, and they've already put forth action. But we're getting ready to complete almost 40 people in Firefighter 1. That's a 186-hour class, and that's not counting the homework they have to do at home and the studying. And you're talking about a lot of long nights that these folks have went through, getting scraped up, beat up, all for free, all in the name of volunteering to get better at their craft, to be able to go and protect life and property. We need to make sure that we are putting it out there so folks know what they've been through and congratulating them. And one thing, the idea that was brought up last night and approved by the association was, doing an appreciation ceremony, having a ceremony, have some cake and items and stuff, dress up, and we get up there, several of the chiefs in the county, the commission I'd like to see participate, public safety, even the board of supervisors to show up and participate, and make sure you're thanking these guys, for the sacrifice they've made. Because, we need all the old folks that's been doing it a long time, and all of us up here that's been chiefs or in different positions, You're super important, but you also need that brand-new Proby right there, because that's your replacement one day. We got to be preparing for the future, so we need to do a better job making sure that the public knows how hard these folks are having to work for these classes. And don't forget the EMS providers. That EMT test is hard. National Registry is hard. So when we get a class of 15, 20, whatever it is, EMTs, and they pass, we need to have a ceremony for those, like in a presentation academy, whatever you want to call it. So that's something I'd like for y'all to discuss, and any funding that can help with that, because obviously that costs money, but the association's already committed to helping, with that. So you can communicate with them.
Yeah, we'll take any ideas that you got, even the people listening at home and the ones in the audience. We'll take any ideas that you got, and we'll take it back and talk about it and see what we can do with it. But feel free to contact any one of us if you got any ideas.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Vice Chairman,
Yes.
our County Administrator, Mr. Terrell, spoke about retention and recruitment the other night. So if you haven't reached out to him, would you please do so? Because he had some ideas as well.
Okay, we've met with him, well, I met with him one time back in October, November.
Okay.
But we hadn't met since, so we want to get back in touch with him again also.
Yes, sir, please do.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments for Vice Chair on the recruitment and retention update? Thank y'all for working on this, and we look forward to your next update. All right, moves us down to item 15E, insurance discussion. Again, this one's going to be real short because, what I done last night, I just like to recap things every year and making sure, obviously we're in a contract with our current insurance, which is VFIS, and that contract will go out for bid next January. And so that's, we're kind of locked in right now. It's nothing we can change there. But I at least wanted to approach the association. Those guys, those chiefs and captains are the ones that have themselves and their folks running the calls to see how the insurance is doing. It sounded like for the most part, they were happy with the insurance as far as if you've had any accidents or claims on the apparatus itself or individuals getting hurt on calls or whatnot. But there were some concerns on the responding to and from stations. We've had insurance in the past, or to or from calls, I apologize, where our insurance protected our individual. So, me, I'm at home, we get a structure fire in the middle of the night, I get in my car and I start to the station, I hit a deer. The county paid 100% of my insurance, the insurance covered that to fix my vehicle or if anyone else was involved and whatnot. Now, they only pay the deductible for your insurance, which could get into, if you got a car worth something and you only got liability on it or whatever, you see them saying it's an opportunity there, and it's happened already. We've had some, so that's not a really good recruitment or retention tool. Hey, we want you to come take this long class for free, and then we want you to get up in the middle of the night and go run calls in the cold for free. But, if you hit a deer on the way to the station, we're not going to cover you. So that's something that I think needs to be addressed when we look at rebidding the insurance and adding that. Not saying VFIS couldn't do it. I'm just saying that might need to be added in the policy. And again, this is from the request from the association. So that's where we stand on the insurance. Any discussion on that from anybody? All right, moving to item F. This is going to be the Chatham Rescue Squad capital improvement request for an ambulance. Mr. Ethan Reagan, is he here tonight? Come on up, sir. And gentlemen, this is in your packet if you want to look at the points that's required while he speaks.
First start off with good afternoon, Commissioners, Chairman. My name's Ethan Reagan. I'm currently in the fleet and buildings ground lieutenant for Chatham Rescue Squad. Been there for about 3 years. I'm also a paramedic. We are applying to replace our 2011 F-450 wheeled coach. In the proposal that we sent in, the truck was sitting at 94,000 miles. Since then, because of having to go to Lynchburg at this point 10 to 15 times a week, we are now sitting at 98,000 miles on it, so it's very rapidly going up in mileage. We have 69 points, as we all know. I believe the minimum is 40 there. To give a little bit more information about where the economics kind of stand, I know, Ben, you have been in the process in the past few years for an ambulance. Ambulances are costing in excess of $500,000 now. That is not including equipment. I was actually doing the prices together from prices I've gotten in the past 6 months while I was sitting out there, and you are adding about $200,000 worth of equipment easily on top of the ambulance. So, of course, $175,000, greatly appreciate it, but that does not put it in anywhere near in the cost of an ambulance. And the intention with this ambulance, if funded, is it's going to become our primary use ambulance that we're going to be running on our 911 calls. I can say I worked close to a 40-hour shift earlier this week, and just on this truck alone, we put over 350 miles on it, and the amount of time we're running about 8 calls. So going to Lynchburg a lot, we definitely could use a replacement, and this truck's going to be about 2.5 years out if we were to sign the contract tonight. So the longer we wait, they're opening up slots right now for 2027 and 2028. So it's imperative that we get funded and can get this truck on order, and any help that we can get would be greatly appreciated. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Reagan? I've got one. Your proposal looks fine. I don't think you're having an issue here from us, but do you guys already have a truck spec'd out that y'all will be able to put on order if approved?
Yes. It's kind of coming in the form of a demo truck. So
that's
we're
fine.
having to work that out. It's under the same specifications that Public Safety used last time on Medic One that they ordered. So very similar truck to that in the Mount Herman trucks.
Did they give you a time frame on builds? Because I know it's went crazy.
December of 2025 if we have it ordered within the next 2 months.
And
And
that's
a
on
signed contract is when we'll get it. So a little bit quicker than some other trucks, so.
Yeah. Wow, that's still a long time for a demo.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, at the end of the day, that's what all of them are taking now. All right, any questions for Mr. Reagan?
This is a replacement, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So you'll be taking one out and getting rid of it and taking it off the insurance?
Yeah, we'll have to be figuring that out going forward. We're in a similar use case with our call volume to where in the future we may be looking at going towards 3 trucks, but as of right now, it's primarily trying to get 2 trucks that are dependable until we get some other things figured out, so.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir, for your presentation. All right, commissioners, any discussion on this? They meet the points. They are 90% plus on their call coverage. You gotta have ambulances to take people to the hospital, so I think it's no brainer here. This money's in the budget for the capital improvement, so it's up to us to approve this or deny it and then send it to the board for them to final say-so on it. So I'll entertain a motion if so, over how y'all wanna.
That's the only request we've had, correct?
That's the only, I'm sorry.
Got Mike Neal.
Yes,
Another.
Mike.
Got Chief Neal.
But it's 2 ambulances.
We're approving 2.
Yeah, it's 2
correct.
ambulances, so, so we can, Chris, it's only 2 being brought up tonight. Okay, so I was gonna say, if we have more than 2 in the future, we will hear all presentations first, and then we will vote, but that isn't gonna be a problem. I didn't think so, but you made me think for a second, Alan. So,
Okay.
so we'll be safe if y'all wanna approve this one, or if not, it's y'all's decision. My vote will be yes, if it is.
I'll second it.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Sellers and a second by Mr. Caspers to approve Chatham Rescue Squad for the CIP funding. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll call for the roll, please.
James Holly,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland,
Yes.
Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Your request has been approved, and it's going to go to the board now. All right, next one up is going to be Chief Neal with Ringgold Fire and Rescue. Same thing, they're requesting an ambulance from CIP. So Chief Neal, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, I'm gonna sit right here. Okay, so we sort of like Chatham, Mr. Reagan, basically the form's the same and everything. So, you know, what we trying to look ahead, I mean, it's not like, okay, we get the money approved, it's available July 1st, or we'll be getting one July the 2nd. These things are 2 years away or better in building them to start with. So if you don't get locked in, it's gonna cost you another $100,000 if you can't get locked in. So what are we looking at Ringo? We have 3 transports at Ringo. I done a little year funding. age of the vehicle, the engine hours, 3 points for every 100 calls, number of calls for the agencies, and you needed 40, we at 61.5, which is another, big number of points of over the 40, so we good right there. Just a little bit about our department. I'm looking at replacing a 2008 F-450 4x4 ambulance. I'm about like a Chatham truck. We a little over 90,000 miles on it, and we run 3 trucks and try to rotate them around. We have a huge call area. We picked up Law Grove area when they stopped transporting. We picked up Sutherland area when they quit transporting. We run in Mountain Hill. We run in Kentucky. We run in Ringo. We run from Danville city limits into Halifax County toward Leggett's Bottom. We got 3 schools, Dan River High, Middle, and Kentucky in our area. And lately these industrial parks, I know Chris has been over there, it's huge. We got the 3 industries, that's the Morgan Olson's, and OI Brockway, the Intertapes, the Ascend, which used to be the Hickson Dan Kim. We got the recent Arrow Farms, and the biggest thing just rolled right there is Tyson Chicken. They're going to be employing up to 600 people, which is a lot of people, okay? So, not just the residents, but businesses. I cover 22 churches, but at the end of the day, with the 3 industrial parks, it's a whole lot of standbys. And we look away from this, and I don't know what would happen in the future, but even September to November is hard on us because we do about 28 standbys. And I know Chatham goes to what Birch Creeks and places like that, but we got, go back and think about it, and I guess Tunstall, Gretna, Ringo, and I'm not sure what Chatham, y'all cover Chatham High, I guess, for ball games. So them 4 rescue squads, they got an extra, I can call it a burden. You get the pleasure to go and see the young kids play ball, but at the end of the day, I had 6 varsity games at Dan River, 5 JV games, that's 11, 4 at the youth field at Dan River. That's 15 ball games. You got to have an ambulance up there, for these people to play. They can't play if you don't have a transport up there. So that's neighborhood stuff. That's PR. That's looking after your kid's kid, your neighbor's kid, and any of the spectators. We've had a lot of people get hurt and go down that we had to act on right there, okay? And the other thing is, everybody's got something going in the neighborhood. We got the fairgrounds. We done our 9 nights in a row covering about 50,000 people total. Then the tractor pulls and stuff. So we got about 28 standbys in about 2.5 months. And that's tough. You got to have ambulance and people on it over there. So anyway, we cover about 11,000 people in the county. I think the county is 64 or so. So we cover about 18% of Pennsylvania County's citizens, and not counting what's running up down the road on 58. So anyway, we asking for that. We got 61.5 points out of the 40, okay?
Thank you, Chief Neal. Any questions for the chief? I'm gonna ask you the same one to be fair. Do y'all have a truck on order or a truck that you're ready to order?
No, we fighting this $700,000 fire truck. So I don't have an ambulance on order, but what we're trying to do is get your feet in, okay, get a commitment, hey, we will help you with this, and then the order time from 2 years, we'll have that done to pick it up,
Hey, Ben.
Yes,
Plus,
sir.
me and Mike's getting a little age on us. We need to keep these ambulances up to date in Ringo.
I agree 100%. But I think y'all are still spring chickens. Y'all keep jumping on it and taking care of it. Any other comments or questions for the chief? All right, if not, thank you for your presentation. I'll entertain a motion for the commission's pleasure on this.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
All right. Commissioner Casper approves the approval to approve the request, and it was second by Vice Chair. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
James Holly,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland.
Yes.
Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Your request was approved, Chief Neal.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is item 15H, and it's fitting that I didn't know we were going to have these requests tonight, but it worked out good. The CIP ambulance replacement formula, you guys just got to take a live look at how it works. So I took this to the association. Again, when I went to discuss the insurance, you know, these type things, I like to get their input if they want to see anything changed, if it's not working or if it can be bettered. So I took this formula as well that we've been using now for a couple years. We put this point system in 3 or 4 years ago now. It kind of follows, it's not similar, I mean, it's not exact, but it's similar to what the state uses for the Rescue Squad Assistance Fund. So that's how it's got its base. But we put this in to be fair when people come and make requests, and if you do have more than 2, you know, you got to have something to go by. So that's why we have it. The association overall was fine with the formula. They thought that it works, and they feel like that the 40 points is pretty easy to get as long as you have a legitimate need. I mean, y'all seen tonight, you know, it was 60-plus points for both agencies, and both show a definite need. The only thing they did discuss is, you know, and this is kind of for EMS and fire, and it's not something that needs to be changed here, but something they just wanted to be brought up is, it's going to come a day we're going to have a catastrophic failure at one of these stations on a truck. You know, Forest Fire Department blew up the motor in their engine. It cost them $56,000 to get it fixed. You know, I don't know how many agencies have an extra $56,000 they can just chunk out of their budget to fix a truck. It's going to happen eventually. I know it was somebody in the county, I don't remember who, but it was $21,000 to fix their ambulance when the motor blew up. So right now we have a rainy day fund, you can call it, set aside for emergencies, but you only can get up to $4,000. Is that correct, Director Key?
Yes, sir.
They can request it, we approve it, and then they get $4,000. Again, that's great and all, but $4,000 compared to $56,000 isn't really a drop in the hat. So the concern is what do you do there? And that's when the director said, well, that's when it would need to be a motion, you know, approved from the association to the commission, and the commission obviously send it up to the board, that they would need to reach into their contingency fund, their emergency fund or at least look at what funding they have to help with an immediate need that, you know, that individual department would be pushed to the front, whether it was on the fire truck rotation or the ambulance, to be able to at least give them some assistance to fix their truck or get another truck. Of course, there were some parameters there that we talked about. You know, this wouldn't replace a 1976 model tanker that blew up, you know, because obviously it was time for replacement on that. So, you know, just in case anybody gets a wild idea. But as far as if you have a frontline ambulance that you're running everyday calls on and it blows the motor and you don't have $25,000 to fix it, we got to service the citizen somewhere. So that was their conversation piece and concern. It was a legitimate concern. I hadn't even thought about it myself. So, you know, I guess that's the way it would work in the case something like that happens. So I just wanted y'all to be aware. Moving down to the next item, which is very similar on our agenda, the CIP fire apparatus rotation. Again, currently what we do for the fire trucks is we rotate all the stations. So if they get the funding this year, then they go to the back of the list for and we just continue to rotate to be fair. Again, there's a lot of fire departments because it's a large county with a lot of calls. But it seems to be working currently. Everybody for 23 and 24 has already ordered their trucks or has a truck in motion. Is that correct, Director Key? Yep, so everybody's doing good with that. People are paying attention to it and being prepared. And, you know, the one thing we did discuss with that was, you know, what happens in the case that, you know, let's say I'll use Gretna. It comes Gretna's year. I think we're like 2030 or 2031. It's on the sheet, but I'm not gonna worry about looking at it. But let's say it's our year next year and we don't have the funding ready on our end to order a truck because a new fire truck's $1 million and we're only gonna get $250,000 from the county. If it's approved to increase it that much, then what happens? Well, what happens is you go to it goes to the next department on the list, the money for that year. If they are ready, but you go back to the top of the list the following year. So basically, you don't lose your spot. You just say, I don't have the funding this year, so you get moved back to the next year. It's the fairest way we could come up with it. I just wanted to bring it to you guys to make sure y'all were still comfortable with the way both of these items. I kind of done two items there at once. The association was okay keeping them both the same, and wanted to make sure you all was in approval of that.
So you, basically, you just get skipped that year.
You get skipped that year. Am I saying that correct, Director? Yeah. Yeah, it just puts you in a pecking order for the next following year, and I guess it continues to do that until you get the funding. But we probably are eventually going to run into that issue if we can't get some increases somehow to help offset these costs of these trucks, that a station's not, especially if it's a smaller station that doesn't have a large call volume, they don't have a large area, they do a good job, but it's hard for them to be able to get in extra fundraising money because of their size area and whatnot, and call running, that they may not have the money to buy a new fire truck. I mean, that's a reality that's coming quick. I was actually impressed that the next 4 agencies all already had their ducks in a row, and that just shows how good of a job our volunteer stations, their board of directors, their officers, and their members are staying on top of these things. So, I hope they continue to prove me wrong, but I think one day that's going to happen, and that would be bad, because these agencies need to continue to rotate and get new apparatus so we have good, up-to-date equipment to protect the community. So, but yes, you would just be moved back in the pecking order.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm looking ahead on the next page where Grutner is, it says Cool Branch is FY20s, and last year they got it, but it hadn't been paid out yet.
It's been paid. This was from June of '21.
Okay,
The SOP has not been changed since then.
okay.
That question was brought up at the association. They were looking at that too. They said, wait a minute. So, yeah, that money's been paid.
Okay.
Yeah. We just need to take that strikeout off
Yeah,
the
we need
sheet.
to mark it off.
All right, so no motion needed here, just informational? Yes, sir. Mr.
I do
Tasker.
have one question.
Okay.
On the point system for the ambulance funding, the last one down there that says 5 points for remounting. Okay, how exactly does that apply? Does that mean you get 5 points if you're remounting your ambulance? What about if you've got an ambulance you're replacing that's already been remounted? So that would, the way I look at that, if you say 5 points for remounting and you've already had it remounted one time, that's almost like you would be penalized because you're not going to remount it again.
I would agree, and this is my take, and I think I argued this a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I'm
is
not a
on-
fan.
On the remount, is if it's a remounted truck you're replacing, or if you are remounting that truck, you should get the 5 points either way. Reason being is you've showed due diligence to try to get the most life out of a truck, and just for those watching in the audience and at home, remounting a truck now it used to be a common practice because you could do it so much cheaper. It's not anymore. And Director Key, you let me know if I'm lying, I'm dying. You tell them. You have to meet. So when you go to remount that, the state of Virginia Office of EMS says, okay, you can remount it, but here's the code book, and it has to meet every code that meets 2024 trucks leaving the assembly line. So if your truck's a 2008 like Mike's, and you're going to fix it, you're going to remount it, that 2008 has to be brought up, the box does, all the way to 2024 standards. And it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And by that time, you might as well just order a new truck.
Yeah, it's
So-
cost prohibitive, yeah.
So, but it still can be a little bit cheaper and can be done, so we decided to leave it in there. The association didn't really bring it up, but I feel like it would only be fair to our departments that if they are remounting a truck or they're replacing a truck that was a remount, they should get the 5 points either way.
That was basically my question.
Yeah, and you can, not trying to tell you what to do, but you can put that in a motion if you so see fit, and y'all can discuss it. I'm just putting it out there. That's why I brought it to you guys, because we can change these parameters on the way that works, going forward for the next CIP funding year.
Well, I would definitely put that in the form of a motion that those 5 points would apply if you're remounting a vehicle or replacing a remounted vehicle.
Okay, have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. Mr. Holly seconded the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, and I'm going to ask a quick question actually myself. Director Key, we changed this tonight. This will go in effect for the next. So just so everybody knows, this doesn't affect the ones we've already voted on. This will go into effect for the 2025 CIP funding. Is that correct? Because we voted on tonight the 2024 CIP funding, trucks.
You voted on 25.
We voted on 25, so it'd be 26.
26,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Okay, so it'd be the next one up, though. Okay. All right, so that, for the agencies out there that would like to apply next go-around, if you have a remount, this would apply to you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
James Holly,
Yes.
Ben Meeks.
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland,
Yes.
Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. That motion passes. Thank you for bringing that up. All right. The next one is bylaw proposal, changing of the meeting night. So this is me. Basically, what my suggestion is, and we'll do whatever this body feels works best for them. I'm just one person. But we had set it up initially, the commission would meet the week before the Board of Supervisors and the association, because the board meets, the third Tuesday, Vic, that you guys meet? Third Tuesday, and the association meets the third Wednesday. So those two meetings fall, back to back. We would meet the week before. The issue I had with it, and if y'all noticed, last year, for the last 6 months except December, because of scheduling issues with this room, me and the director had to get together, and I polled all y'all of when you'd like to meet. We moved our meeting to the Thursday, the same week of the Board of Supervisors meeting. And yes, for those that like to attend all those meetings or have to, it is a busy week because you attend the board meeting on Tuesday, the association on Wednesday, and commission on Thursday. But what we found, or at least what I found I liked about that, is everything is right there together. So if there's anything the board needs to send down to us, like this document with the study, let's just pretend for a moment it wasn't changed that way in the past, and this study was approved. We'd have had to wait a whole month to be able to ask Mr. Ingram questions about it, to be able to bring board, concerns or comments to us. Same thing with the association. They would have a request or an issue or whatever. They would have to wait a month before they could bring that to us. So I felt like putting us in line with them. We all were meeting the same week, and anything was fresh that the association needed to send up to us or the board needed to send down to us, we could talk about it and vote on it. So that was my request to move it to this week on Thursday, and I appreciated all the commissioners that were able to get back to me on agreeing on that. We had a majority, so that's why we moved it. And, that was that's my proposal, is to change the bylaws meeting night, which would be the third Thursday.
It won't always be the third Thursday.
Won't always be the third Thursday,
You
but
probably need to word it somehow to be, will follow the Board of Supervisors meeting,
okay,
because sometimes the way the meetings work, it may be the fourth
okay.
Thursday.
So we can, and again, this is all up to y'all, but that's my proposal. And I'm not gonna put that in a motion yet, but we also need to discuss the proposal that Mr. Ingram brought up earlier, and he's exactly right. Currently, it says in the bylaws we'll meet 6 times a year, every other month. We've stated before we don't approve of that we want to meet every month, and then if we don't need to meet, we cancel it, which doesn't happen often, but if so, we would like that opportunity. So we need to discuss that as well. If that's what you guys want, we need to put that in a motion as well. So the floor is open for the proposals on the bylaws. The discussion of the proposals, I should say.
If you move it the same week of the board meeting and the association, I will have no time to add anything from either one of those meetings to the agenda. That's my only problem. So it would have to be just brought up, the night of it.
Which, and to be fair to you, that is, I hadn't really thought about that, but I feel like, with Mr. Ingram having his segment on there already of Board of Supervisors communications every month, we give him that opportunity. that would be the appropriate time. He could, either at the beginning of the meeting, he could add the item as an agenda item, or he could just, like tonight, discuss it. That was a motion the board made, and so he could discuss it in length, what they were doing and whatever they needed this body's help with. Same thing with, Mike Neal, Chief Neal, or Dean, or whoever's going to be here representing the association. They have their meeting on Wednesday. They have a segment that they're allowed to speak at every one of our meetings as well, and that's their opportunity to say, hey, we voted on this last night. It's a hot topic. I need you guys to talk about it, and this is our wishes. So, although I completely agree with what you're saying, I hadn't thought about that, I feel like we would be okay in that aspect, because they already have that opportunity to bring stuff. And again, it would be fresh, it would be right then, and we're not waiting a whole month. Again, like I said, there's been some, I don't want to call it stink. There's been some questions on this study, and so we were able to talk about it last night, and then tonight we got some answers, hopefully. If it hadn't worked out with our meeting being tonight, then we'd have had to wait a whole month, and you know how it goes, what all would have got said, so. Any other discussion on the proposed changes to the bylaws? So for clarification, Chris, because I'm not hearing any discussion, do you need a motion on the proposed changes and then for us to adopt the bylaws, or do you just need to say that's the changes we want and then we'll adopt the bylaws?
No, you'll need the motion first, and we'll need exact wording of what you want to put in here.
Okay. All right, so does anybody want to put that into a motion?
Would you like for me to read what it states now?
Yes.
If you would, that'd be great. We want to make sure, I see Vice Chair trying to.
I'm trying to figure it out here.
You'd read it, that'd be good.
Okay, the commission shall regularly meet at a minimum on the second Thursday of each odd-numbered month. That's what it states right now.
So if we changed it, we need to say the commission would meet every month following the Board of Supervisors meeting.
Mr. Chairman, shouldn't that just be, they should meet as
As
needed
needed.
following the board meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the
Yep,
way it
thank you.
should be read.
Yeah, as needed following the board meeting.
So whose motion is that? Is that your motion, Coleman?
That's my motion.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right, we got a motion on the floor, and I guess we'll do the two of them separate. So we have, is that how you want me to do that, Chris? 'Cause I think we're gonna also have a motion probably coming on the
6 months.
6 months, good gracious, I couldn't think, yeah, so do we need two motions separate? Okay, all right, so I got a motion, and you second?
Second, Mr. Coleman's motion.
All right, so we got,
And that specifies the Thursday following the Board of Supervisors meeting, correct?
yep,
Well,
As
we didn't put Thursday, we put in there just following the board
Just
meeting. That
follows.
way, we didn't have to define when they had that board meeting.
Well, then, Director Key, then you said some months we may not be able to meet on that Thursday, maybe the next Thursday?
I would have to check with Kalen and see that we can still meet here each month following the board meeting. Because there's other organizations that may have already had reserved this.
I still feel like that would be, if that was the case for that month, we'd try to always have it the Thursday of the week of the board meeting, but if that would be the case, it still would be beneficial, not changing the argument of which, at least what I'm trying to make, because it still would be in a week's time and be fresh, and we could, I just feel like our meeting should follow those two bodies' meetings. That way we can do what we need to here.
To me, we need to define the day of the week, though. It needs to be as needed on Thursday following the board meeting.
What if we can't get the room that night?
But it has as needed, so that would give you your out right there.
Yeah, because what we've done in the past, if we couldn't get that's what happened last year. We had our schedule set. And then 6 months in, some group that I guess ended up being more important than us, not taking away from anybody, but that's what it felt like, said, hey, no, we're using the room for that same meeting night. They changed or whatever. And so Chris come to me, and it wasn't a big deal. He come to me and said, hey, we need to move. And I polled you guys, and y'all told me when you wanted it, and it worked out. So I would say that would just be the same thing here. Go ahead and put it in the bylaws how we want it to read, meeting as needed the Thursday of the Board of Supervisors meeting. And then if there comes a issue in the future that we can't meet that night, then I'll do the same thing. I'll contact you all again and say, hey, we can't meet because someone else has a room. What day do y'all want to meet?
Well, hopefully, we would know that, like the meeting before, so we could announce it, that we would have to
Yeah.
change it. Just like, in the schedule, which I had set up for this year, on the nights we're currently meeting, there's one in November that conflicts with another meeting because of a holiday on Monday. So that's one of those where, they automatically get moved to the Thursday night. So I would just have to sit down with Kalen and make sure it doesn't conflict with any other meetings.
Okay. Is everybody still, we have a motion and a second, so we gotta vote on that motion. And Commissioner Coleman, are you fine with him, the verbiage of, it'll be the Thursday of the Board of Supervisors meeting as needed?
Yeah.
That's verbiage correct? Okay. All right, call the roll, please, on that vote.
James Holly,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland, Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
All right, gentlemen. Thank y'all for that. The next one we're going to discuss is the proposed bylaw change of 6 months to once a month or as needed. Director Key, if you would, let's try to start this right this time. That was my apologies. If you'll read what it says, and then we can go from there.
And the commission shall regularly meet at a minimum on the second Thursday of each odd-numbered month.
So, what is the commission's pleasure?
It says as a minimum, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't, does it need to be changed? As a minimum, we meet more than that, so, it's kind of already
It
open.
doesn't say maximum, does it?
Yeah.
So I think where the issue come in, and Chris, you correct me if I'm wrong, Vic, you too, the issue where it come in is where you guys get a stipend for participating in this meeting. It's basically a financial thing where they say, well, y'all was approved for 6 meetings a year. It's not in the budget for y'all to have 12 meetings. So that's where it come from. So if we want it to be, if we want to be able to have a meeting every month, then we would have to change the bylaws, I think is where the issue's coming from. Although I agree with you, the way it's worded, we have been doing it correctly, but they had budgeted for 6 meetings, so.
Would you add a minimum and then put a maximum?
Why not just say each month?
Yeah, just
Say each month.
each month.
Well, I was thinking either
Or
we
as
just
needed.
omit the monthly clause altogether. I mean, to me, that'd be the way to do it, because we already have in there as needed following the board meeting.
I agree with Coleman. It does sound a bit redundant.
I'd make a motion to omit.
Just omit the
each
odd-numbered month?
Yeah.
I like it. All right, we have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Who was this, Mr. Stallings? Yep. Mr. Stallings, second that motion. Any discussion on the motion? Vic, you think that'll take care of the issue there with the bylaws as far as the meetings being each month? You think this motion will fix that?
I hope so.
Okay.
I did ask Kalen about the availability of this facility on that third Thursday, and it's not occupied, so it's good.
Okay. Good deal.
The comment about the funding, that was before my time, so,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's something we may have to talk about.
Okay. Well, just let us know. But we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, call a roll, please.
James Holly,
Yes.
Ben Meeks.
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland.
Yes.
Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. That brings us down to item 15K, adoption of the bylaws. So now we have to adopt, since it's a new year, our bylaws which will govern us, and this will include the new changes. So do I hear a motion to accept and approve the bylaws?
Motion to accept.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Casper, second by Mr. King. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
James Hawley,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland. Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
Thank y'all. Motion carries. Next thing is item 15L, 2024 meeting schedule adoption. So you guys, we just discussed that, so now we need to adopt that meeting schedule.
The one that's included in the package is not the one that you need to adopt.
Okay.
Because I went by what we had in the bylaws now. So that's
Okay.
why we will have to have a new schedule.
Okay, do we just need to make a motion to table that and bring it up next month?
I would, yes.
That'd be approved? Okay. So I entertain a motion to table that.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. Motion by Vice Chair and second by Mr. Cassell to table the 2024 meeting schedule until next month. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, call the roll.
James Hawley,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland. Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
All right, gentlemen, that brings us down to item M. So I believe this is going to be Vice Chair's item. I'll let you take it.
Okay, and I wanted to bring this up for kind of a brief discussion, because we had already talked about the hospital wait times in last year's session. But, we had an incident back on I think it was the 10th of January, that our ambulance waited almost probably 3 hours and 50 minutes inside of the ER. We weren't in the parking lot, they was inside. And they was just due to staff. And I don't want this to go any way against any staffing of the hospital, because those people there were doing their job. They were doing it, they just didn't have enough of them. And, they sent us a spiel when they was gonna restructure this ER in last year's session, that we wouldn't have to wait, that it was gonna be, everything was gonna be worked out. And then they went and everybody was standing in the hallway. And I think I've heard, I don't know for a fact, but I've heard some of the ambulances, the crews have already put chairs to attach them to the stretcher so they can so they have somewhere to sit when they wait.
I will say, when my ambulance went down to cover for Ringo, they had their last funeral that they had to attend for one of their members. We got 2 calls, and one of those calls, my ambulance sat at the Danville ER for almost 2 hours outside waiting to get in. It's an hour and 51 minutes they waited to take some patient in. Again, it's nothing this body's gonna do to change it, but that's just, I don't see how it's acceptable to sit somebody outside for 2 hours or 3 hours and tell them that's okay. Again, I understand it's not the nurses and doctors in that ER, it's the individuals above them. But building a new ER does nothing if you're not gonna have staffing, so I hope they're gonna fix the staffing. I will add to that, so that I'm being fair here for those listening. I quit counting, but the other day, for the month of January, or started late December and went into this month, Gretna ER had been on diversion. In 26 days, they've been on diversion 15 times. 15 times, averaging anywhere from 4 to 12 hours or more each time. Like the shortest one, I think, was 4 hours. Most of them average 12 hours plus. When they go on diversion, the closest hospital for the northern end is usually Lynchburg. You go to Lynchburg, you're looking at a couple hours, because it's a 55-minute drive from my house to Lynchburg ER, and then 55 minutes back, and that ain't counting you taking the patient in and everything else, not counting the time you getting the patient. So you're at minimum 3 hours each time. And what that continuously does, and it's not their fault, Medic One, just like us at Gretna, has a large call volume up there in Hurt. And that truck, a lot of times, is going to Lynchburg on a transport. And then they get on the second call. Well, guess what? The next agency's Gretna. We have to go to Hurt. We end up in Lynchburg. Then a call comes out in Hurt or Gretna. And the next closest truck is Medic 2 or Chatham Rescue Squad. And, you know, and if I miss it, if I go to back up Medic 1 because they don't have a second truck there to run, and I go to back up Medic 1 and I miss my call for the lady in Gretna, not only does my community fuss at me too because we didn't respond to them, but I also get dinged by the county. So I missed that call, even though I was on a call. So it's tough times with these diversions and these long transports.
Well, to my understanding, you know, it was a lot of, I think they were like 6 deep that night. And basically, we was backing up. Tunstall hardly ever drops a call. I mean, it is what it is. You know, they do a great job over there. And we picked up one for them, and we were gone, so our backup was gone over there waiting, plus our front truck was gone. And so our community was left wide open. And now with everything that's going on, let's just say they cracked the drug box that night. They had to go to Gretna to get it refilled. Because they couldn't trade it out at Gretna because we fell in that imaginary line somewhere.
Yeah, Director Key, I don't think we've had a meeting since that come about. Can you describe why, what was the purpose of that? Because it's really putting disadvantages to, that night that we stood by for Ringgold, which we love, we appreciate, we want to stand by for folks. I'm not fussing, but I'm using this as an example. We were down there, they transported to Danville, they cracked the drug box, they sat outside for an hour and 51 minutes. They went in, they had to do their patient turnover, then they had to drive to Gretna and do the report, which they had the report done, obviously, because they had that much time. But they had to drive to Gretna to get a drug box before my truck got to go back to Gretna and be in service. I mean, I don't know how much more unrealistic we can make it for these people trying to cover calls.
Western Virginia EMS Council did that. I don't know. Their reason I believe, is to assign every drug box to a hospital for that accountability. It's not a regional thing anymore. It's assigned to a certain hospital.
And to let you know, I've already called Director Key on this already. So we've had this discussion, but the thing about it is, you get these departments like us, and there's others too, that we 2 hours away from everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you crack a drug box and you gotta spend another hour and a half going to get that fixed before you can get back in service and service your community.
Yeah, you do realize the drug boxes are going away, right?
Well, that's what I keep hearing.
Yeah,
So how close are we to that?
I can't answer that one.
Yeah, so that's
I
a
know it
bridge.
just happened in Halifax. I guess ODEMSA is their regional, coordinators for the state. And they come up, Jason called the other day and asked, and he said they had till November to get everybody with their new drugs set up. So it is coming. Can't tell you exactly when, but my guess is it's probably within the next 2 years.
And that's going to be a whole new challenge, set of challenges that we're going to have to try to figure out.
Yeah, because you'll have to be your own pharmacy.
Yeah.
That's part of getting that controlled substance registry through the DEA.
And I can tell you right now, we went through that and we were approved, but that's a process and you got to keep it up. And I didn't realize you got to renew it every year.
Yeah, we just renewed
So
ours.
every year you got to renew it, and they can come and inspect whenever they want. And within 7 days of you changing, so let's say, because right now I'm currently at Gretna listed as the administrator for our controlled substance license. Let's say I change positions and I'm no longer the chief there, and I'm no longer going to hold that title as the administrator. If I make vice chair of that position, I have 7 days to contact the Board of Pharmacy so that they can come and they can update their paperwork and come do a reinspection, or I lose my license. So
This is going to be for all drugs and not necessarily stored on the truck.
yeah, no,
If you
this
have
right
any-
now is just
yeah.
for saline.
That's right. But when it comes down, it'll be for all drugs, no matter where it's stored at.
Mr. Ingram, I've got a question. When the Gretna ER was built, it was my understanding that it was built in a fashion that it was capable of expanding that facility. Has there been any discussion with the Gretna hospital as to addressing the wait times and diversions, as to go ahead to make that expansion?
No, sir, not to my knowledge. Now, myself and our county administrator met with Steve Heatherly at SOVA. And of course, you know, they're going through the renovations there, but we're still working on it. But not to my knowledge on Gretna.
It would behoove us, I believe, to ask you guys to take Mr. Terrell, and I mean, that's Darrell's area, but as many as y'all would like to go and maybe have those same conversations that you have with SOVA, with Central.
That's a good idea. I think we'll do that.
I will say this, and again, this is not a dig at anybody. The nurses and doctors, guys, they're just like us. They are busting their tails doing all they can. It's not their fault. But when I take a patient to Lynchburg, they always get a room. They either get triage or they get a room. But you never, ever, ever sit outside in an ambulance. I never, ever do it. I pull up. It could be 12 trucks out there. Lynchburg Fire Department could have all their ambulances there, all of them from Campbell County, Amherst. They get everybody that comes there. And we can roll right in, hit the button, roll to the charge nurse, and she's going to say, go to bed, this, or either go to triage, this. And that's it. You sign, you get back in the truck, and you come back. We never have that issue.
Well,
So I don't know, you know, where we lose that, but
well, you know, and it's like when they came and spoke to us, I asked that very question, and I never got an answer that night. And but how? You know, how does? And I totally agree. When you may go, well, if you go north, when you get there, it may be just overwhelming there, but they manage. And there's got to be a reason that they can do it, and it can't be done on the south end at SOVA. There's got to be a reason. Now, I do know that what Centra does in Lynchburg does have what a level 2 trauma center designation, so they don't go on diversion, but they do manage to handle the overflows. So it can be done.
So Ben, just throwing one thing out and I'll be through. So what Kermit was saying, we go to Danville, SOVA most of the time. We go to Halifax some, we go to Gretna some. We've been to Person County, we've been to Rocky Mount. I mean, but let's go back. We said earlier, this recruitment and retention. And I'll tell you point blank right now, there's some rescue people sitting in here, and all of them will tell you, that's one of the biggest problems I got, even with my regular members. If I miss 10 calls a month, or blah, blah, blah. I had one running 250 calls a year at night. We call her a night hawk. She always running calls at night. Her job, she starts at 8 o'clock every morning. She said, I can't get on the truck no more at night, Mike, because I don't know when I'm going to get home. And that's true. Used to in the day, you make a turnaround an hour and a half, and you get on the truck now at 3 a.m. in the morning, you might not get back to 8:30. And, I mean, this is this month. I had, on New Year's Eve day, I had 2 of my people run a call. It was our second call. They went down on the Milton Road. I won't just leave it at that. Call come in at 1:09 that afternoon, 1:09, 10 after 1. My 2 people went down there, got the person, went to Danville SOVA Health. At 6:37 p.m., they cleared ER, okay? So they were gone 5 hours and 28 minutes. 4 hours and 22 minutes was sitting in the hospital. One of my members on the truck had a huge family dinner gathering for New Year's Day at 5 o'clock. He don't even leave ER at 6:37. So my phone's ringing at home, trust me. And I can't say what they told me, but how you going to tell them to get on the truck? Same thing the other day, Saturday, was it Friday? Saturday, we had this big storm, 40-mile-an-hour winds, 2-3 inches of rain. I get stuck in the woods, meet my ambulance on my pickup truck. I done put down that 40-mile-an-hour winds down a path, and we go to ER. It's 4:15, left ER at 6:38. Mr. Tim, you was up there. We got there. You come in. I said, man, we in business.
You were by yourself up
Yeah.
there. That we came
I
from
got
the
into
house,
the hall.
We left, there was 6 ambulances up there.
I got into the hall. I had my patient on my stretcher, so I technically was next. And they said, Danville's taking one out of room 17. Okay, we're gonna go to 17. 3 more stretchers come in, y'all come in. They evaluate your patient some, but if your patient's not bad, put them in triage. Anyway, long story short, I had 4 stretchers, one ahead of me. One of Danville's guys left, he's in my department. They took them in front of me, and before we ever left, they was back in the ER again for another patient, same crew. We got out of there at 6:38, and I'm crawling in the woods trying to make sure my truck ain't covered up in trees and a mud hole. But I'm just saying, that's why we can't get people on the trucks. That's the biggest thing. And I know Danville's trying to do better, and it looked like listening last week or so, they've gotten better some. I know they've had some meetings, you know, and turning the people over more. If you bring them in, if they can go to triage, put them in triage, and blah, blah, blah. But that's one of my reasons. And we mentioned the county trucks. Hurt takes off and goes to Gretna or wherever he got to go. Even Medic 3, they get the same bust over here in Danville. You know, that's your backup truck, and they're sitting up about 3 hours. You go and you're out of the building, so you ain't nobody's backup, you know, so that's what you run into. Only other thing I'm going to say, I see Mary Whittle back there, Westover Supervisor, good to see you. And he's here tonight, and everything he's heard, I'm sure when he walks out them doors, you're going to be a smarter man on fire and rescue. Thank y'all.
And Mike's correct. I mean, it caused this one key part of the system causes a systemic failure of the EMS system, whether we're talking in various agencies, public safety or whatever. The trickle-down effect of this is failure of the system.
If I might add, when we met with Steve Heatherly, he was very candid. And I pretty much knew what he was going to say as far as this wait time, but it's a shortage of personnel within the hospital. And when I was talking with him about this housing development in Axton, which he very much supports, because he said that they lose about 70 professionals every year going and coming, doctors, radiologists, nurses. And you know, I know it was the truth because I have 5 nurses in my family and 3 of them work at SOVA. And so if you don't have the staff to tend to the patients as they come in or to move them up as needed, but after we talked, it looked like it got better, and so I'm a bit surprised that it's sort of regressing backwards, but we know it's a problem. So.
Yeah, but did he say why they were losing the nurses 7 or so a year?
Mainly pay. Yeah.
Okay.
Because some leave here and go to Cone and make a whole lot more money. I know one that went from making $40 an hour to 100. So, you know, I just, I don't know much more than what they tell me.
Well, one of the biggest things they're doing too is, Danville's stacking you up. They're not diverting. Since his new CEO come in, they have not been on diversion. They're just stacking you out in the street and in the hallways and everything else. They have not been on diversion.
Okay.
And while I appreciate them not going on diversion in context,
But they still hold it.
but they still on diversion.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, you
I'd rather you go ahead and tell me we're on diversion, because by that time I can take them
I've
somewhere
had
else.
my ambulance leave up there twice and go to eat. Leave out of the park, you know, pull up, find out, see what they got, and go to eat.
Well, also look at the fatigue you putting on our volunteers, just standing in the ER waiting.
Hey, we could have went to Winston-Salem, Bowman Gray. I've been there a million times with my daughter, or Duke. I could have went down there, Eva Hospital, unloaded, and got back to Ringo, and still had an hour to spare.
I'm serious.
So, you know, again, I know we're beating this dead horse, but, you know, I think it's important that we at least, you know, make it known to the director and to the board. And I'm gonna make a motion, because I think Commissioner Coleman Mayhew here had a good point. I think it's time maybe our board goes, our county administrator and any board members that can attend, and have kind of the same conversation with the Central CEO or Central's board, whoever you can get in contact with, that you had with Danville, because it seemed like it helped for a while, and we're obviously hearing the stories now, it may be regressing, but, you know, I get it that Gretna ER is a 10-bed hospital. Not a hospital, I stand corrected. They're a 10-bed ER. That's all they are. It's a standalone ER, and they do a great job to only have 10 beds. That being said, though, you know, when you go on diversion 15 times in 26 days, it's a cascade effect, you know, because if Danville's backed up 3 hours and Tim says, well, I'm going to go to Gretna, oh, well, Gretna's on diversion. Now he's got to figure out somewhere, you know, what's the third option, and it's not good for our patients either, really. That's the main thing. So I make a motion to ask our Board of Supervisor representative to take it back to the county administrator and the Board of Supervisors to request a meeting with the central CEO to discuss the diversions and wait times.
I don't think you need that. I'm gonna do it anyway. So
Okay.
consider it done.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, I've got a question. Does the Danville Life Saving Crew have this kind of trouble? I'm sure they do. All right, we've got a city councilman here, Madison Whittle, sitting in the audience, and I appreciate him being here with Murray and,
They're sitting in the
paying
hallway
attention
right
to what
with us.
we're doing. Murray, if I could ask you a question, have y'all had any contact with SOVA about this problem with the diversions? Yeah. Madison, I'm sorry, excuse me, Madison. Well, we're all one community. What's good for y'all is good for us.
Yeah, and Tim made the comment, you know, Danville's sitting right there with them and just as long, so it's just it's an issue. And again, like I said, I take nothing from the doctors and nurses and the, you know, technicians and everything else. They're doing all they can.
Maybe if the city council and the board of supervisors both had the same concerns, it would
Yeah.
get a little more response.
Well, that's what I said. I mean, the doctors and nurses that are working in there, they working, they got their hands full. They doing all they can do. And I definitely don't want to take anything away from them. It's not them at all. I mean, they're doing all they can do.
Mr. Sellers, to your point, when we decided to go to meet with Mr. Heatherly, we were going to invite Danville to find out that they had already been. So that's why we went separately, but that was a good suggestion.
And Vic, I'll tell you, if you do talk to Centra, because, you know, I have the utmost admiration for Central Gretna. I love them. I'm thrilled they're there, and I love working with them. But it seems the problem there is kind of like a logjam situation. They are a, 10-bed facility, and they get backlogged because of the difficulty in transferring patients from Gretna to Lynchburg for admission. That's where you run into your problem in Gretna. That's what puts them on diversion. All their beds are full, waiting for patients to be transferred to Lynchburg. So,
I got you.
Yeah, and just because they go on diversion doesn't mean they can't stop somebody that's deathly sick or, you know, trauma patient, whatever, walking in the front door. And then when you only have a 10-bed facility, they got a couple hall beds, and you have somebody comes in that's serious, you know, with a major injury or major illness, they have to go in and jerk somebody out of a bed and put them in the floor somewhere, put them in a hall bed, put them in a triage room, put them back in the, and that creates them issues. So we know a lot of the problems there, and that's why I think a conversation maybe just to see if there's any plans for expansion. I mean, if they could put a second floor on that puppy and put a 24 observation unit with 10 more beds, that would fix a whole lot of the problem right there.
I guess this is a good time to ask the question, but Centra and Danville, I know there was some objection before they were ever built, but still yet, what would be the issue about taking patients there if available? I mean, they have a helipad. I mean, does anybody know?
They can't use a helipad,
Okay,
I don't think.
okay. But what about
It's never
taking
been used.
patients there?
Madison's gonna speak. He probably knows more about it. Bedford. And just for Vice Chair caught me on this a minute ago, I did make a motion. I'm going to rescind my motion because you've already said you're going to take it to the board.
Yes, sir.
So it's no need for a motion. I'm going to rescind my motion to ask.
And
the board.
I'll try to report back next month.
Thank you, Vic and Madison. Appreciate y'all educating us a little bit on that. And I hope, again, nobody has a perfect solution, but hopefully we can get somewhere. Any other discussion, and we'll move on. I know it's getting late. All right, next item is item N. This is the item I asked to be added, and this is just for clarification so that I was made aware of a new policy that was put out January 1st this year for the Public Safety Department. And the policy addresses conflict of interest with public safety and our volunteer agencies, 21 agencies in the county. And what the policy read, and Chris, if I get off wrong here, just correct me, is that essentially you cannot be an officer at any of our agencies in the county that are volunteer if you are going to work as the director, deputy director, chief, deputy chief, or fire marshal assistant in Pittsylvania County Public Safety. And I just had a concern there that, you know, we continue to talk about we're trying to breed a good relationship between our public safety and our volunteer stations, and we have some good, smart people in the communities that volunteer that would also like to maybe one day be able to go and apply and work there and still, you know, use their craft as their career and still be able to volunteer. And I feel like that's penalizing to them, and I completely understand, to my knowledge from the ones I've asked, beforehand the policy read that you couldn't operate as the director or deputy director, i.e. Chris's position, or Scott Hutcherson, our deputy director. Completely understand, because they oversee kind of the entire operation. They assist with the budgets, the money, and somebody could perceive them to be, you know, let's say Chris is the chief at Brosville and he's the director. There could be a little bit of conflict of interest there that he's trying to get Brosville some extra funding or whatever. But aside from that, going down the line, I don't see where that conflict of interest, and as the biggest one that stood out was the fire marshal. You know, how the fire marshal's a conflict of interest volunteering at my station as a lieutenant didn't make any sense. I just want to know, Chris, if you could give us the commission. You know, I had a couple come to me and ask me about it when they seen it, and I said, well, I'll add it to the agenda. I'd already sent you my items, but that's, you know, if you can elaborate.
Yeah, I feel it's a conflict of interest to be an officer in both organizations. I mean,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Actually, it's in the Code of Virginia. You can't be a volunteer and work and get paid for that same type of service.
So I think that's talking about, so like at Gretna, we have career staff. So my career staff, because we went through this when we hired them, they cannot serve as a volunteer at Gretna. We have 5 EMS individuals that are paid by us as their normal job to cover calls, because we get 2,000 EMS calls a year. But in that is they can't come up there, let's say on Monday, and run their 24-hour shift and then come back Tuesday and get back on the ambulance and say, oh, I'm just a volunteer. Because of the labor laws and Code of Virginia, you have to pay that individual because they're an employee of yours. that can't volunteer there. I think it's two separate, complete things. And again, I may completely be wrong, but the county is an entire separate entity. Even though Grutland's part of the public safety of Pittsylvania County, we are our own incorporated agency. We have nothing to do with Pittsylvania County Public Safety.
Actually, the problem exists when the county gives you funding. That makes you an agent of the county.
Is there any legal interpretation that the county attorney could provide for us on that?
Can ask him and see.
Okay.
I mean, to me, I didn't feel that it would be fair to be an officer in both organizations and being able to decide all of this stuff. I mean, the day-to-day operations, I just didn't feel it was fair. I didn't say they couldn't volunteer. They can still run calls as a volunteer. I think it's great. But should not be a volunteer officer and also be a part of the administration of the Public Safety Department.
Yeah, I can see where that, could be perceived as.
Yeah. I mean, because I could be making decisions that would benefit the Brazos Fire Department. Technically, nobody would know. That wouldn't be right. Even as the fire marshal, you could be making those type of decisions. And I said it's not right to be a volunteer officer and be an admin for public safety.
So I think if you go back and look at the Code of Virginia as well as the tax laws, you will see in there how that works. Because I believe I had, about a year or so ago, I had sent some information in regards to that. So, yeah.
I feel like, and this is no disrespect to the director, but I feel like that's the director's job and deputy director, that if there is some sort of favoritism, with the fire marshal that's coming out, okay, he's not coming out and dictating who's going to be in command of a call. He's coming out to investigate a fire. How that position that he works at, but he can't go be a lieutenant or a captain or a chief on his hours off. We didn't have this rule in the past, and it seemed to work fine. I feel like that should be the administration leadership, 1 and 2 man to say that that's not going to happen, and if it does, it gets nipped in the bud. Again, I completely see your side of things. It's just my opinion. I had a couple people come to me about it in the community. I had 2 commissioners on this body to talk to me about it, and I said, hey, I'll put it on the agenda and we'll discuss it. So, that's
One other thing, in the Code of Virginia also calls out the definition of a volunteer. They only recognize a volunteer as an individual who serves without any type of compensation. And I'm pretty sure it's close to that verbiage in that if you go back and look into the fire service as well as volunteers.
Any other discussion on this topic? Just for the record, I disagree with it, but any other discussion?
I've got a question. I've got a question for Mr. Keat. Was this incorporated into your bylaws this year?
Yes.
And you did it on your own without asking any advice from any council or this commission or the attorney or
Yes, sir.
anything? You just arbitrarily inserted that into your bylaws?
Well, it had been discussed in the past, and it never been wrote down, so that's when we felt we need to write it down.
We?
Yes, me and my
We-
deputy director. We had been discussing it.
Okay, I just wonder where it come from or how it got to that point of being, you amending your bylaws and how much maybe thought you put into it.
Well, it's our SOPs, yes.
Okay. Should it have been maybe carried to a broader, board for interpretation, you think, looking back? Maybe to the attorney or even talked about in this commission or the Fire and Rescue Association?
I didn't bring it before, I didn't feel it was
Kind
needed.
of to speak on that, Mr. Keys actually did follow the state code of Virginia in his, actually, that's part of the code of Virginia. So, I mean, he just pretty much just called it out. It's not something new.
Did you realize that was part of the state code when you made that decision?
No, sir, we had discussed it, but I
Okay,
didn't research it.
I actually been researching it because of
Yeah, I'm
the
asking
issues
questions.
to
I'm
come
not,
up, yeah.
if he didn't know that was part of the code, that played
But
no
I'm just saying that
part
really,
in him making that decision.
I would
We had
challenge,
discussed it over a year ago with Mr. Mayhew, but nothing was done at that point.
I would challenge, because my attorney at Grutland, when we merged and looked at Hireman, did not say that's what the state code with the interpretation of it. That's just my opinion. I mean, my attorney's opinion for our agency. And I'm not saying, Coleman, you're wrong. I completely understand what the code says, but I think you're looking at two different apples here, two different things. You're looking at an apple and an orange, I should say.
Well-
It's not the same apple.
I personally think if we're going to sit here and cite, well, the state code says this, and we need state code to see it, because if we're going to sit here and
I can print it off.
well, we don't have it right here, so we can't, you can't use it to justify what we're discussing if you don't have it in front of you to back it up.
So it's actually section 27 of the Code of Virginia, so I mean, if you want to pull it up on your cell phone, I mean, you'd have it.
The point I was making, I was just maybe thinking, Mr. Key, the next time, or maybe even now, go back to the county attorney and ask him his opinion on it, and then we will be a little better informed.
Okay.
I'm not questioning, and I appreciate the job you do. It's nothing to do with you personally. I just think before you amend your bylaws, you need to be on a little more solid ground than what I feel like you are right now.
And I want to apologize for, maybe I should have handled this differently than bringing it to the commission, but I sometimes still find it difficult to see exactly I know what the mission and the goal of this commission is, but it's kind of like we're only here to discuss the volunteers in this county and make sure that they're following the rules. And not saying they're not the rules, I shouldn't say that, but make sure they're following by X, Y, and Z, but nothing else. I just seen it as a disadvantage to some good people in our county that may or may not want to be employed for this county, which, to my opinion, would say, hey, that's a good individual, and that's when the director and his assistant would make sure that those things, that favoritism doesn't happen. Now, I'm not saying Coleman may be exactly right if the code says that, and that's, that wasn't Chris's intention, but he still had good intentions with what he was saying. I just don't disagree. I find it a disadvantage for some of our volunteers, and people say, well, there's animosity sometimes, and I feel like some of that's a driving force sometimes. That's the only reason I was bringing it up. So to reel it back in, it is what it is. The director's made his decision. There's possible, may or may not be state code on it that says that's the right decision, and we move on. But going forward, I agree with Mr. Sellers. I feel like we should be open, and why? Because volunteers do wonder, if I want to go work for somebody, but I'm dictated to not be able to volunteer, when this is an entirely separate incorporation, it's like I said, I went with my attorney and talked to him for our agency. I know what he told me, but that's that. So, any other discussion, we'll move on to matters of the commissioners. Okay, if not, we'll move into matters of the commissioners, and we're going to start to my right, Chief Neal. I'm good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Vic Ingram.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for a good meeting, good questions, and I do want to acknowledge my colleagues, Mr. Bowman in the back, and Murray Whittle, as well as his brother Madison. You've got a lot of support with this new board. Thank you guys for what you do.
I look forward to what we can do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Casper.
Not much other than just to, congratulate our new board members. And just as I said at the board meeting the other night, I'm looking forward to working with this board.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sellers.
When we have a little conflict like we had tonight, or firm discussion, I think Mr. Key, what he did tonight, he had the best intentions of his facility and our facility both in mind. And I feel like Coleman Mayhew has done his research. I would stand behind if he told me he's right. I think we all need to stand behind each other and not leave here with any animosity, because this is a good group of guys, everybody in here, and we're very fortunate to be serving the county in the capacity we're in. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Mr. Holly.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to come back to you, Vice Chair. Chris, Director Key.
Nothing to answer.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rowland.
Nothing.
All right. Mr. Stallings.
No, thank you.
All right. Mr. Cassell.
Yeah, I just want to tell some of these departments out here that we had a little scare at our station a couple of weeks ago. One of our guys was going to the building, happened to see smoke across the street at the body shop. Turned out the building was on fire. But he called it in. The only address he could think of was our building. So we got punched out as our building on fire. So we had a good response. But
We was on the way
Oh, yeah, he pulled the truck out, and he pulled the truck over there, he's by himself and put the fire out before we got there. So, but you know, we got lucky from that building across the street. If he hadn't been coming by at that time, it'd have been gone. So, but I mean, that's how the guys are. They're observant.
Yep.
You know, they're willing to jump in and do whatever. So, I appreciate everybody was heading that way.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Colton Mayhew.
Have nothing.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll go back to you, Vice Chair.
First off, like I said, I've enjoyed working with this group of guys up here, and thank you for having the confidence in being the chairman again this year. We'll try to do our best again. And like I said, looking forward to working with the new board members. Congratulations to those who won. Looking forward to working with you. The volunteers here, thank y'all for coming out and being a part of this. That's what it's all about. This is how you keep up with your information. But right, I would keep Tunstall and those guys in mind. They had a bad wreck this afternoon on Franklin Turnpike. I think it had one fatality in it, so keep those in your prayers and check on your brothers every now and then.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so to just kind of reiterate some of my colleagues have said, I want to thank this commission for allowing me to serve as your chairman. Again, I hope I make you proud. Excuse me, I want to thank Mary Whittle, Board of Supervisor, and Kim Bowman, Board of Supervisor, for coming out tonight and being in the audience. Guys, we really appreciate y'all. It makes us feel like we're heard. I know I come talk to y'all Tuesday night for 3 minutes, and asked for y'all to attend if you could, so thank y'all for coming. And then Madison Whittle, thank you for being here. I know you're with the Danville City Council. Appreciate your comments tonight. And, you know, again, like Mr. Sellers said, our community, you know, benefits when y'all's community benefits and when we all do well. So we appreciate y'all being here, gentlemen. I want to, again, congratulate as well all the ones that won their election. As far as, you know, our meeting tonight, guys, I know we had a lot of topics. I think it was, like I told y'all, 10, 15 items in new business. Again, that's why I think it's important to meet every month, I apologize, every month. And so, you know, and there is items that come up sometimes that, you know, people feel passionate about. I feel passionate about some things. So, like I said, I apologize for maybe I should have handled that different tonight or how I presented that but you know, again, it's just something that I felt needed clarification, and we are where we are, but I think Mr. Sellers is right. When we leave, we got a good group in here, so we need to work together, work with our director, work with our board members, association, make sure everybody's included. Communication is key, and we will be successful. I look forward to this year. I hope none of us gets called out, but we know that's just not going to happen. So when our folks go out, I pray that they are safe and get back home. And that's all I have for tonight. Oh, and I want to thank Glenna for taking our minutes and doing everything she does. I forget her every month, but she's a great clerk, and I always forget her, so thank you for what you do. And that's it. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah.